Hey guys, it's Brian with the Got Fishing Podcast, and believe it or not, we're already at episode 7. Today I don't have a guest. Today I just thought I would talk a little bit about something that I get questions about all the time from people that are just getting into not necessarily fishing. Obviously, I deal mainly in fishing, but people that are getting out and really want to understand as they begin to explore the different alternatives out there, or they start to do the research, for their different adventure, whether it's a day trip or maybe they're heading out on a week-long trip to another country. There's a lot of different ways of researching these. And I think there's also some confusion out there because I get questions all the time on what is the difference between an outfitter, a charter, a guide, and a booking agency. So this is going to be a shorter podcast, but hopefully I can bring some clarity to the four deals, the outfitters, the charters, the guides, and the booking agencies, how to use them because they all provide, a really great service. It's just using them in the right way. And then also how a booking agency like Got Fishing can play into this as well. Because we all have our specialties. And so it's just kind of having a better understanding of what an outfitter does, what a charter does, what a guide does, so that you can use them better. So let's just start off with an outfitter. Everybody, understands when they go on these different trips, they're working with an outfitter. Really, an outfitter is the business aspect of it. I can even read a definition here in the dictionary. It says that an outfitter is a licensed business that employs guides, provides services, provides lodging, equipment, things like that. So think of an outfitter as the business entity. So when you head out to a lodge, or if you head to your typical, like maybe your angling shop, it's actually an outfitter. They have a business license and they provide a variety of things, services like taking you out fishing, or provide you lodging, place to stay, provide you equipment, whether that's selling you a fly rod, in the shop, or providing you lodging and food and a boat and the different things that you're going to need in order to go on that excursion that you signed up for. That's really what an outfitter does. And so they play a huge role in this because outfitters are really the ones that are providing the main experience. They're the ones that have the business side. So they're the ones who are going to own the lodge, own the fly shop, and be employing the guides and people that work there, the chefs and people that make that stuff happen. So really think of the outfitter as the business entity of it. And yes, it's typically owned by an individual, but that individual doesn't necessarily guide. Now, again, this is not across the board in every situation. There are outfitters out there that own their own outfits, and they also do guide. But for the most part, and for the purpose of this podcast, it's really kind of explaining the difference between the four. But in this world, there's definitely crossover. There's booking agents out there that are also guides and so on and so forth. So like we just got done saying, an outfitter is a licensed business that employs guides and provides a variety of products and services for guided fishing, hunting, rafting, whatever it might be. So that's going to be your outfitter. Charters are similar but different in that charters are going to be water-based. A charter is typically going to be, it is going to be out on a boat, out on a body of water for a period of time. So whether that's a half day of inshore fishing or a full day offshore fishing, or there's many charters out there where you can actually go and stay for multiple days and just travel to different fishing destinations. That's going to be a charter. Boat, on the water, fishing. So similar to an outfitter in a way, except that an outfitter is really the business side, lodges, like I just explained, where charters are specifically going to be water-based and out on a boat. Then you have your guides. So the guides are the people that actually work for the outfitter or work for these charters. And a guide's job, they're really the ones that are the hands-on. When you go to the lodge to go fishing, you're going out with a guide. And that guide is there to make sure that you're getting into the fish or the animals or the experience that you're looking for. So in my opinion, you want to have a great outfitter, but every outfitter really needs to have great guides or they're not a great outfitter, because it's the experience. Everybody stayed in great lodges and had great food, but most of the people that are going on these trips, particularly fishing trips, are there to catch fish. I mean, so having nice meals is great, and having great lodging is certainly a great aspect, but we're there to catch fish and have that experience. That's first and foremost. And having a quality guide that really, really understands the different techniques, where the fish might be, where they're not going to be, different ways of casting to them, stripping for them, whether we're going to be using dry flies or streamers or trolling rigs or whatever it might be. They are very, very important to making sure that we're going to go have the experience that we've signed up to have. So outfitters, business, charters, typically going to be out on the water. Your guides are the ones that are actually doing the real hard work. So how do I use it? And then you have the booking agency. Booking agency is like Got Fishing, Yellow Dog, Tailwaters. There's a few great booking agencies out there. And what a booking agency does is they have a global understanding of the different outfitters out there and the guides and what they provide. So I say global view because they do their best to have a really good understanding. Most booking agencies, at least the good ones, have typically, stayed in these lodges or been out on these charters. They've eaten the food, slept in the beds, and fished with the guides. They really have an understanding of what this experience entails. That being said, there's some disadvantages to booking agencies versus guides versus outfitters. So let's just kind of go back through it. Outfitter, when you're looking to get some information, whether you're traveling to Argentina, Montana, Alaska, Mexico, you're going to find a variety of, when you get online and you search up that lodge, when you dial that phone number, typically the person that you're going to be talking to is the lodge owner or the lodge manager, not a guide. And the lodge owner or the outfitter is going to tell you what their experience, involves. And they really do a great job of it. So you kind of get a different perspective and you get more of kind of a global view of that lodge experience, the beds, the linens, the food, the people. You're traveling in a plane, a boat, how long this is when you show up, this is when you leave, and just kind of give you an overview of the expectations. So it's a great way to get a kind of a general understanding of what this experience is going to be like. Very rarely do you actually get to talk to the guide. They're just not the one that are answering the phones. So and then on charters, typically charters are very similar to outfitters. You can Google or, a magazine ad, or maybe it's a friend who just got back from Costa Rica or Mexico and they've shared the particular charter that they used. You can get on and, give them a phone call as well and ask them a lot of the questions. How big is the boat? How new is it? How about the equipment that you're using? How long are we going to be out on the water, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to give you probably 80 to 90% of what it is that you're going to need in order to make that trip happen. So great ways of finding out what this adventure is all about, what the experience is going to be like, make sure the budget, the price, the duration, all more than capable of answering all of those questions. We still haven't talked to the guide yet. And in this scenario where we're looking for information on a specific trip, we probably won't. Just because they're the ones boots on the ground. You may know a guide, the guide's in a particular area. Of course, you can ask them. But when you're reaching out for information, whether it's on a phone call or you're sending in an email requesting some information, typically, like I said, you're going to be getting that information from the lodge owner or the lodge manager. So the upside is you're getting just a real hands-on view of what this lodge and the experience is going to be like. The downside of it is that many outfitters and guides, because that's what they have is that lodge and that experience. And so as you ask questions about menus or vegetarian meals, or I'm a conventional fisherman, but I'd like to go fly fishing, and maybe that lodge isn't necessarily set up for, having a vegetarian a meal in addition, or having some of this extra gear to make, fly fishing accessible for those that don't have it. And so this isn't all of them, but what you hear a lot of outfitters say is, oh yeah, we can make that happen. Oh, no problem at all. We'll make that happen for you. But it's not something that they do. And yet your experience is kind of based around that. It's an important aspect of it for you. So yes, you're there to catch fish, but if having meals that are in alignment with your eating habits or your nutritional values, and you've asked that question, that's part of your experience. And so when you go there and it's not that way, it begins to kind of take away from the experience that you're supposed to have. You have expectations that are based on the answers that were given to you. So why does an outfitter not necessarily lie, but kind of tell you not exactly the full truth? It's because it's not out of maliciousness. They really, really, really believe and really do want to make that happen for you. But they have you on the phone. They have one lodge that they have to book. It's their lodge, and they want to make sure that that fits for you. And they're not always, they're going to make little adjustments so that that trip fits you. But the problem is this: the trip that you're booking isn't for 3, 6, 9 months down the road. And so a lot of these promises that are being made during this conversation, it's happening at 5:30 at night, completely gets forgotten. So you haven't forgotten it, but the lodge or the outfitter typically has, or it hasn't been passed down to the staff to make sure that these things are implemented. So I've seen numerous times when clients have talked to outfitters and had a particular expectation, and you've heard this. Well, they did say it, but it was at a trade show. It was on the phone late at night, and they just got off the water. Whatever it might be. So it's not that there's a maliciousness to it, but it's they kind of just figure that once you get here, the other aspects of the trip are going to make up for maybe this not being perfect. And unfortunately, in many cases, that's just not true, because again, where our expectations are when we come into this. So great ways of kind of finding out initial information about the trip. Another thing that I would do and highly recommend is once you've gotten off the phone with an outfitter, even if you've heard a good story and it sounds good, I would check on reviews. In this day and age with the internet, there's anybody who's doing anything that they shouldn't be doing there's going to be a report out there. There's going to be a review out there. As we all know that you can do everything right and maybe get a couple people to spread that word. You do one thing wrong and everybody wants to share that. So an outfitter or an experience that isn't doing exactly what they say that aren't doing what they say they're going to be doing or do, they're going to be called out on that. So check for reviews. Don't just take the outfitter's word for it. And if he is everything that he says that he is, you'll find that out there as well. There'll be other people that have said, wow, what an incredible experience. So don't just take the word for it. Do a little bit of research in addition to just talking to the outfitter. Ideally, if you can talk to a guide, which I've said before is, kind of difficult to do because they're the ones who show up to the shop or the outfitter and they're just kind of told, this is what you're going to be doing today and these are the clients that you're going out on. So it's really important that you ask the outfitter some questions about his guides. And so a couple questions that I would go over, since I can't specifically talk to the guide, is how long have your guides been guiding? Most shops today have some old school guides that really get it. And when I mean old school, I'm talking about guides that have raised families on this profession. There's a lot of guys out there who call themselves professional guides, and it's just a professional joke because they're driving around in a truck that dad bought them. They got a boat that has a loan on it for the next 7 years. And really, they've guided on one body of water, and they've typically done it for a couple summers. And you know what? For a lot of people, that's probably going to work. But for a lot of people who have, fished in different areas and are looking for, an experience that's kind of authentic, they want someone behind the oars or someone that's walking and waiting with them that really, really has some substance and has been around for a while. So there's a real difference out there in a guide and a professional guide. In my opinion, the definition, I kind of have the same definition with photographers. There's a professional photographer and then there's, an enthusiast, someone who's good at it. The difference is have you raised a family? Do you pay your bills? Are you moving forward in life with this particular career? And there are guides out there that have made this into a career. And they're exceptional at it. And they really, really understand the essence of the fishing that they're doing, where the fish are at. And it's more of just going out there and catching fish. It's an experience. You need to learn a lot about this person and their travels that they've had, some of the things that have made them such a great angler. And most of these people have traveled around the world or had other experiences besides just fishing in this one river. So I always ask outfitters to tell me a little bit about their guides because that's the person that I'm going to be spending the majority of my time with. I get up in the morning and have a little great breakfast. Hopefully I slept in a great bed. But now I'm going out for, 6 to 8 hours with this particular individual. And so you want to make sure that the individual that you're going out with has some depth, that actually has done this. And if you're a guide or an angler who's just getting into this, maybe you could be a little bit more flexible on how long the guide has actually been guiding in their experience. But if you're someone who has been at this for a while, and maybe this isn't your first guided trip, and you really want someone that can help you with your double haul, or just, really explain the environment, the ecosystem, why it's so strong, why it's not, all those things that are kind of fun to talk about while you're out on the water, you want to make sure that you have a guide that can, carry on that conversation with you. So a lot of times, like I said, I can't necessarily talk to the guide, but I can talk to the outfitter about his guides. And then I also can recommend, and ask for, as I hear the story of, I got a couple newbies, but I also have a couple guys that have been with me for a decade or have been in this industry. That's the person that I'm going to ask for. So you can also reserve a guide. And if you're working with an outfitter or shop who's saying, oh, it just doesn't work like that, well, I wouldn't book with them, quite frankly, because you're going to go spend $600 to $1,000 a day, kind of depending on whether you're on a local river just fishing with a guide or whether you're out on an experience that provides lodging and all those other things. It's really important that you're with a person and that person has the skill set that you're looking to have. And so if you have an outfitter who just isn't going to commit to that and is just going to stick you with the guide that's available that day, that's too much of a gamble for me, for what is being charged today to go on these trips. They're not free. They're expensive, as a matter of fact. It's well worth it, no question about it. If you don't have a boat, if you don't know how to fish some of these rivers, it's well worth it. But it's just not worth it if you're on this river with a guide who doesn't really know what he's doing, can't really carry on a deep conversation, can't explain to you, what makes this ecosystem how it is. A lot of these guys have just literally moved to the area and are living out of their truck and have been there for a few months. So make sure that you're working with an outfitter, whether it's a lodge or just a local shop, that actually has some quality guides. Ask a few questions about them. And then, in my opinion, especially if you've been at this a while, request that you are with one of the more experienced guides. It can really make a huge difference. So outfitters and charters are wildly important as far as getting initial information, but the guide is really, unfortunately, the one you don't talk to, and they're the one that really is going to be kind of responsible for your trip and the essence of your trip, and whether you do or don't catch fish. And if you don't catch fish, coming off the boat, not really sweating that you didn't catch fish because of such the conversation that you had, the knowledge that you came off the water with, et cetera, et cetera. So ask lots of questions about them and how long have they been in business. And then you've got booking agencies. So and kind of our role in all of this. I think what's the plus on the booking agency is we do not have a vested interest. So I don't care specifically if you go to a particular lodge in Alaska. My goal is to put you in the exact lodge in Alaska that is going to meet your needs. So a booking agent's where an outfitter typically tells you about the experience and what you're going to have. A booking agency does a good job of listening. We ask probably more questions than an outfitter or a charter is going to ask. We want to know about, your experience, your skill level, the exact experience that you're looking to have on this particular trip versus experiences that you've had in the past. We're going to talk to you about the gear that you currently have or don't have. You want to go on a trip that's going to require you to go buy new gear, like a saltwater trip, or would you rather stick to a trip that's more in alignment with the gear and the skill set that you have? So booking agencies ask a lot more questions because our goal is not necessarily to get you into a lodge. Our goal is to get you into the best lodge based on the experience that you're looking to have. So what's the downside of a booking agency? Well, the downside of a booking agency, in addition versus like an outfitter, I'd say, to be fair, we don't necessarily have our thumb on the current conditions. Maybe what's going on with the water today versus yesterday. Over in Florida, we've got, a lot of stuff going on that unless you're there experiencing the kills that are happening with the red tide that we have going on over there, or maybe you're over in Ascension Bay and, the seaweed, the sargasso is, completely different than it was the year before, you're going to get a little bit more detailed information about weather conditions and water conditions and things like that directly from your outfitter. So where the booking agents, yes, they've been there, they've eaten the food, they've slept in the beds, they've fished, they're giving you more of kind of an understanding of the experience, but maybe not the details of what that experience is looking like today or that week. Now, what I will say is a good booking agent does have a continuous and constant relationship with their outfitters. So they really should have a decent understanding. Plus, they're always having their clients come and go from these lodges. So they do have, they are a little bit up to speed on what's going on in the waters or the environment or the lodge. Again, different things happen on these lodges too. People run into hard times, or maybe they have, like I know up in Alaska, it's been very difficult the last couple of years for these lodges to maintain guides throughout the entire season. So they start strong, they might have 6 or 7 guides, but as the season goes on, again, not every guide's a good guide. Not every guide is cut for this stuff. Plus, there's just other things that pop up. So we do have our hands on, or I guess our thumb on the pulse of what's going on because we're running so many clients through. But the outfitter also has a really, obviously, a great idea of what's going on at his particular experience. So I think, like in like the best way to do this, if I was out and I was the type of person who was going to book, trips, whether it be just a day trip in Sun Valley, Idaho, or over in Montana, or wherever my journey takes us. And I also am the type of person who likes to go do some adventure travel, head up to Alaska or down to Mexico, or maybe even to a Montana lodge for multiple days. I would probably do a couple things. One is I would find a booking agency that I trusted, that I could find a fishing consultant that I could trust, and that was going to understand my habits, where I'm at in my fishing life, where I'm at in my skill set, and help me either become a better angler, help me get on trips that are going to meet my needs, but really working with a booking agency and a fishing consultant that you have in your back pocket, and they can help you plan for different trips that you have coming up. So that's another real advantage of a booking agency, is we have you can kind of tell us what are the different adventures that you'd like to be going on over the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and we can begin to kind of put together the trips that are going to fit best for you. But what I would also say is don't necessarily just count on your booking agency. Make sure that your fishing consultant or the agency is working directly with the outfitters and that they know what's going on. Another example is the King Run over in Alaska. A lot of people, if you're talking to the wrong person or you swung by one of these fishing trade shows and you talk to an outfitter and you just, really want to go catch kings up in Alaska, you could really get yourself burned. There's a lot of rivers up there where the kings are just not returning like they were. And whether it's just a deal where it's going to be off for a year or two in return, we'll see. But like on the Naknek River with one of our lodges, I had a client that really, really wanted to go catch kings, and we've moved him to a completely different section of Alaska because the kings just have not been showing up the way that they had in the past. And not that the client wasn't going to, get opportunities and catch some fish. It was not going to be like it was supposed to be, and there's going to be a lot of disappointment. So Got Fishing really, we're a boutique fishing agency. So we do not work with hundreds of outfitters. We only work with select outfitters. So it's easy for us to really be on top of what's going on in these different lodges in these different areas, whether it's COVID restrictions in Argentina versus how you travel in and out of Mexico. So we can really help people navigate those things, passports, and you name it. So I think having a really good booking agent, and there's good ones out there. I think I've mentioned a couple. Yellow Dog is an awesome booking agency. Tailwaters is an amazing booking agency. I'd like to think Got Fishing is a great booking agency, but I think finding a company that you trust and finding a consultant within that company that you resonate with is really, really important. And then either A, making sure that your fishing consultant that you're working with at one of these booking agencies has a great relationship with these lodges and is actually communicating with them, or that you take the time to do that as well. a lot of booking agencies, including ourselves, we're not going to necessarily tell you who the lodge is at the beginning because we don't want you to go around us. But once we've earned your trust and we've got you going in a certain direction on a trip, you're going to know what that lodge is for sure, no question about it. So you have the opportunity before you sign on the dotted line or commit to that trip to do a lot of the things that I just got done saying. Call the outfitter. Do some checks on some reviews to make sure that there's an alignment. And the more that you see in an alignment, the more you should trust your booking agency and your fishing consultant, because that's really what their job is to make sure that you're on the best fishing trips no matter where it is. Well, your outfitter typically is focusing on a lodge. Your booking agency is focusing on multiple lodges and multiple experiences. So to kind of make this thing short and to button it up, I think that, again, if you're heading out just for a day, walking into a guide shop and asking some questions, just as simple as tell me a little bit about your guides, how long they've been in the business, what it is that they do, and making sure that they match you up with the right guide, because you're not just going on a fishing trip for the day, you're going on an experience. And these experiences, like I said, are not free. So you have the right to ask a few more questions than you might think you do. You have a right to ask a ton of questions. And one of those is how long the person's been in the business, how long have they been fishing these waters, et cetera, et cetera. If you're going on bigger trips, or if you do this, like I said, a lot, as you travel around and you like to fit in a fishing trip, maybe you're going to Alaska for business, but you're the type of person who, no matter where they're at, likes to check out an experience if it's available. I highly recommend, using a booking agency and developing a relationship with a consultant that's going to be looking out over your shoulder, and making sure that you got the right gear, that the conditions are right. Hurricanes aren't blowing in. These things are real. I've actually seen, we were on the Ascension Bay. This was last year. And I watched one outfit not tell their clients that were coming in that there was hurricanes and storm warnings and the fishing wasn't going to be as good. They were just going to wing it and fish in places where hopefully the wind wasn't blowing. And the outfit literally across the street was calling all of their clients to cancel that week because they just didn't want to fish them. That's the difference. Same place, same beach, same sand, same everything. But one outfitter is all about making money and not necessarily your experience. And the outfitter is 100% about your experience and not about the money. So you want to make sure, and how are you going to know that you're with the right outfitter? Honestly, through a booking agency, because the outfitters are there to run a business. They're not lying to you, but they're there, like I said at the beginning, to make their trip fit, I think is the best way to put it. Make their trip fit. Obviously, if it's a fly fishing only and you're conventional, they're not going to make that fit. But I've seen a lot of it with food, gear, experiences that are available in and around these lodges to do, hiking, the ecotourism, shopping, whatever it might be for a wife or a girlfriend or someone that's joining, and then it's just not there or isn't at the level. Coffee shops closed or whatever it might be. So working with a booking agency that's going to answer all those questions and make sure that it's the exact experience that you're looking for, backing that up with a little bit of research of your own, calling the outfitter, doing some reviews, I think honestly puts you in a really perfect position. You cannot go wrong if you follow just a few of those tips. And if there's anything that Got Fishing can do for you, we would love it. GotFishing.com, check our website out. But this isn't just to promote Got Fishing. Yellow Dog, Tailwaters, there's others out there. So make sure you find the right booking agency for you, find the right fishing consultant for you. And then as you're going through and building trust with them, you can do some fact checking, like I said, by calling the outfitter, checking reviews, asking for other clients that they've sent to these trips to talk to you. I love doing that personally. If I've had a couple clients that have come off an experience, those clients never have an issue sharing their experience with another client. So that's another tip too to ask is, do you have anybody that's been on this experience that I could talk to and kind of get an unbiased opinion on it? So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope that it helped out, and good luck out there on your fishing adventures. Thanks, guys.